were held today, get ready to say Prime Minister Pierre Poilievre. Hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Warren Kinsella and Brian Lilley. Warren, I am aware that we are at least 2 years away from the next federal election, but we have talked before over the last year as we've seen the polls across the country month after month showing an increase in support for the Conservatives at the not only the expense of the Liberals, but also that of the NDP. So 2 years away, we're seeing in some instances double-digit leads. Sustainable, and is this a very real trend?
It is very real because the polls, the media polls, they're kind of worth what you pay for them, which is nothing. But if you look at a bunch of them all together, the aggregators, and they reveal a trend over a period of time. And the trend is, this is not an outlier, it's not an exception. Pierre Poilievre, as you say, is poised to be prime minister if an election was held today. Brian's got all the numbers, and it shows a pretty dramatic rise for the Conservative Party really since the month of May. And I think the reason for that is Poilievre is talking about the Conservative traditional strength, which is pocketbook issues. He's talking about affordability, talking about inflation, talking about getting prices down. That's the stuff that works for him and for his option. And as long as he's doing that, Justin Trudeau's on defense, and I think the numbers show that.
Brian, let's break down some of those numbers. Polling companies across the country have been tracking this for a long time now. They ask on all manner of things, but the top line question remains, who will you support in the next federal election?
Yeah.
And in majority of those polls showing a majority Conservative government.
Well, the latest from Lilley has the Conservatives at 39%, the Liberals at 27%. Warren mentioned a steady rise since May. At May, end of May, Lilley had them statistically tied. I think they were a point or two apart at that instance. And if that had happened, we'd end up with the same parliament that we have right now, a Liberal minority parliament. But when you've got, 39% of voters backed the Conservatives, and that includes with stronger support in BC, stronger support in Ontario, stronger support in Atlantic Canada, and competitive in Quebec, well, then that's majority government territory. So a 12-point lead for Lilley. Ecos, who I don't really believe, says it's a 19-point lead. You've got Nanos with a 7-point lead, Ipsos with a 9-point lead. That's the trend line that Warren's talking about. And it has been a strong and steady one. Now, is it going to hold? Well, I'll disagree with something both of you said, that the election's 2 years away. I'll remind everyone, it's a minority parliament. If Jagmeet Singh stays in this coalition of the doomed until then yeah, it's going to be 2 years away. If he smartens up and realizes Trudeau's bringing me down along with him, then we might go earlier. And, could that be in the next couple of months? Could it be next year? I'm not sure. I don't buy the idea that Jagmeet Singh's going to hang on until he's fully invested in his pension. 6 years as an MP is not much of a pension, although maybe it is enough of an incentive for him. But, if we, can they hold this kind of lead for that long? It'd be difficult. So I expect there'll be some tightening up. And then when a campaign happens, as Warren can tell you, anything's game. And Justin was one heck of a campaigner. Awful at governing, but the man knows how to campaign.
Let's talk about the axis of weasels, trademark Warren Kinsella, and that very notion. Canadians have watched this entire fiasco unfold over the last few days with the accusations against the Indian government, and then couple that with inviting a Nazi into the House of Commons to be feted. Warren, even NDP supporters must be looking at Jagmeet Singh and saying, what is it going to take? When is enough already? And he's already sort of doubled down recently and said, the support we're offering is going to stay intact for the most part. But you are a student of politics, and you look at the different political parties, the makeups and the demographics and the shifts and across the country. I can't imagine NDP supporters being very happy about this.
No, they're not. And I've got a lot of friends who are around Jack Layton, good friends, and none of them are involved with the the same crowd. And it's the same with Trudeau. Any of us who work for Mr. Chrétien, none of us are involved in the Liberal Party anymore. So they're different parties. And we have to give Justin Trudeau credit for one thing. It was a big thing. He executed a friendly takeover of the New Democratic Party of Canada. He owns it, absolutely owns it. And he turned his minority from 2021 into a majority. That is a big political achievement. Is Singh going to go anywhere? I don't think so. The psychology of the NDP, in my experience, I've fought them in elections across Canada, is they're always used to losing. They think it's a noble quest. So they're not, if they get their 20 seats, they're okay with that. Liberals aren't. The Liberals that I've talked to this week, some of them senior, are very concerned about the polls that Brian has referred to. They're very nervous about these incidents that have taken place, India and Nazis and so on. And the big thing, the big problem they know they've got is Justin Trudeau. People are they've had it with Justin Trudeau. They want him gone, Liberals included, but he's not giving no sign that he's disappearing anytime soon.
Well, if there was ever an argument for term limits, Brian, Justin Trudeau as our prime minister might very well be one of them, but that's not how it works in Canada yet. But that said, 2 years potentially, let's just for argument's sake say it's that prescribed time. Yeah. It's a very, very long time in politics. As we've seen recently, anything can change over the course of a week. But it's very difficult to overcome such a significant deficit, particularly when you look at the regional breakdown, where Conservatives are enjoying support where they normally wouldn't be as competitive, as you mentioned, certainly in Atlantic Canada and even potentially in the province of Quebec. But events, right? Events always overtake things, and no one can lose a poll position faster than a Conservative who says something silly. But it's been pretty steady so far.
I thought when Justin Trudeau came out with his announcement saying that, India is behind the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, that would be an event that would actually work for him, that would be an event that people would rally and say, well, we're all Canadians and maybe I disagree with Nijjar's politics, but we can't have extrajudicial killings on our soil. It hasn't worked out that way for him, partly because of how he handled it. He went public with the accusation, but released no evidence, which allows India to say, that's not true, that's absurd, you're just motivated, you're too close to Khalistanis. And Trudeau says, well, help us with the investigation. They say, well, you got to show us something, you got to share, and you've told us nothing. So the India thing didn't work. I thought that would be a rallying cry for an awful lot of Canadians to say, I don't always agree with Justin Trudeau, but I'm going to stand with him. And then while that's still playing out badly, you get the Zelensky thing and honoring a Nazi. And while Canadians don't vote by and large for their federal government on foreign policy, these things make them look bad. They make them look incompetent. And then on the main issue that's driving so many votes and so much of the discussion right now, affordability and the cost of living, the Trudeau Liberals are not putting a lot in the window. People are worried that they or their kids won't be able to afford to buy a home. And all the policies that the Trudeau Liberals have come out with so far on housing are aimed at low-income rentals. That's not what people want. Yes, these are important programs to have, but when the big discussion is about making sure that your kids can afford to buy a home, turning around and saying, I'll make rentals cheaper, that doesn't answer the middle-class question. And that's why those voters are looking at Pierre Poilievre.
Warren, last word to you on the thing that does motivate Canadians to the polls. Of course, you're thinking about your own pocketbook issues. That's all should be the number one driving force. Of course, you're going to have your hardcore partisans that are going to go one way or the other for whatever reason, but the majority right now are contending with an affordability crisis that is only getting worse. Do they blame Trudeau for that?
In part, they do. They're mad at all politicians. Let's face it. Nobody is greatly loved at the moment. But, governments defeat themselves is the old cliche, and it's true. And this guy, as I've pointed out a million times before, he's been Liberal Party leader for more than a decade. And he's been Prime Minister for more than 8 years. That's it. Time's up. So long. Bye-bye. And, that's what Canadians are saying. I know Liberals when Trudeau comes on the radio or the TV, they turn it off. They don't want to hear from him anymore. And that's why you see in all of these different cases, whether it's the Nazi in the House of Commons or the Sikh activist killed in Surrey or what have you, the response is always the same. And it should make Liberals' blood run cold. They always say, where's the proof? They're always asking Justin Trudeau for proof because they don't believe him on anything anymore. The guy has no credibility. And when you're prime minister of a country like ours, you need to have credibility, right? And he just doesn't. It's lost, it's gone, and he needs to be gone as well.
And what's that other old cliche? The emperor has no clothes. Go to theTorontoSun.com and hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments below, who will you be supporting in the next federal election?